Let's create our voxel shapes. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. I know I told you that the previous episode was the last one on Blockbench. However, I forgot a very critical point. We need to export our voxel shape when it comes to our custom model. Now, what is a voxel shape? Let me show you something that I have in my mod right now. As you recall, our model for solar panel in previous episode was different. However, I promised that I will work on a flat shape, and well, I made the flat shape. I exported into my mod and replaced the model, and then I ran the game. Let's see what is going on there. Let's go into the game, into our world, and you will see something bizarre. Now, what's going on here? What is this black line that is showing on top of my model? And if I move up and go into third person view, you see that I'm standing on top of the model, but with a height difference. Yes, I'm in the air. The thing is that this black line is called voxel shape. Voxel shape is actually a hitbox that will tell the system how your player should interact with the block when he is trying to walk on top of the block. If we go for a solid block like dirt, for example, and I put it, you will notice that we have this black line all over the block. This voxel shape is a hitbox that will stop our player from trying to move forward, and when we hit this voxel shape, the player and the system will identify the height of the voxel shape. If it's greater than some amount, it will not let the player to walk on top of it. If we use something like a slab, you will see that a slab has a smaller height on its voxel shape. So when you walk on it, you can go on top of it, okay? But the full block has a full voxel shape height, so it will not let you to walk on top of it. Now, our model has a different height in different size for the voxel shape right now because the previous solar panel was like that. As you see, I have this intrusion here, and it means that I can go here, and because it's smaller than the full height, I will go on top of it. Then again, from this height to the full block, I can go one step higher and stand on top of the block. Now, for the current model, this is wrong. We need to fix that. Now, how can we fix that? In your block bench, you need to export your voxel shape. Now, here's the thing. If your model is simple enough, like this guy, you don't need to export everything as you see. The way to go around it is to create another box that will cover the model entirely like this. And then what people do is that they will delete the main and keep the cube as it is. However, I prefer another way. Just hit the export on the main and turn off everything and keep the cube. And then you can go into export voxel shape for fabric. This is important. You need to use the fabric version, okay? If you don't have it, look around in the plugin lists and download and install the plugin. It should work. Now, where to put it? We can put it anywhere we want. I prefer to put it in the root of my project side by side with main. It doesn't matter the name, it's a temporary file, so save it. And now we go into our project and we find that file. You see that it's something like this. Now, the important part is that unfortunately, it did export all of our cuboids, although we turned the export off. So either go to the main, delete it, and then export again, or alternatively, if you're familiar with the coordinates of your cuboids, you can identify where the things are. I know that this cuboid should start from 0 to 0, go all the way to 1 to 1, and not a full height. Fortunately, the only one that is fitting this criteria is this guy, okay? And we can see that it's 1/4 of a block height. So I will cut that. And now I need to open my solar panel model inside our block. And you see that on top, I had this voxel shape that was a little bit of complex. However, now I can just delete all of that and simply paste this one. Okay. And at the end, I'm using simplify so that if, for example, our voxel shape is complex like what we had before, it will try to simplify the voxel shape as much as possible and ignore minor details. However, in this scenario, we are using a very simple voxel shape. Now you see that it says voxel shape.union. It means that we have multiple cuboids. If we hit the dot, we see different things that we can use. And you see that we have a cuboid that we can use maybe, but it asks for a box. Anything else that may help us is empty. it means that it will not have any voxel shape. Full cube means that it's from 0 to 0 to 0, 1, 1, 1, and we can't use that one. We have the union, and that's it. So I don't have anything else that I can use. I will go with union again, and I can remove this dot simplify call because it cannot be as simpler as what we are providing. Now, if you are using my library, you are using gblock, and for gblock, you will use dot set constant shape and set the shape. If your block is rotating, then it's not a constant shape, another thing that you need to call. However, in this case, it's okay. If you are not using gblock, what you will need is that you need to replace this method, get outline shape. And as you see, I'm just returning something. In this case, if you want to overwrite it, you will say get outline shape. And as you see, it returns a voxel shape. So you can simply return the shape here, okay? And that will work. However, keep in mind, if your block will rotate around the world and it's not simple enough, your voxel shape may not work and you need to rotate the voxel shape and it needs a bit of math. If you want to look into the calculations, you can watch my repository for GBase, go into properties and then block properties, and you will see these run shape calculation, calculate shape, and these two are responsible of rotating the voxel shape around using the facing that you have and put it inside a map, and then inside get outline shape, you just look into the map and get the shape based on the direction and everything else, okay? I don't know why you wouldn't use my library because it makes your life much easier. This actually is a full block that has lit property, that has horizontal facing, that has a shape. You don't need to override mirror or anything else. Anyway, now that we have this, if I run the game now, our solar panel should look okay. If you want to have facing and rotate the shape based on the facing, you will use add rotated shapes and send the shape in instead of using the set constant shape. However, I will not have a facing for this block, and I just have a simple block that will not rotate around. So I will remove that property now, and that's it. I'm debating on keeping that lit property, but again, if I don't need to have it, it's just simply removing a single line. And of course, I need to change the model there. But right now, I'm happy with it. Let's run the game and see what we have. As the game is coming up, it's worth mentioning that if you want to take a look at my repository, the link for the repository is inside Discord channels, and you can find the link for the Discord below the video in the descriptions. It's inside every video's description. Please join the Discord and make the community grow. Help each other there. That's the best way to learn stuff. And please tell about this channel to your friends. I'm not advertising this channel, but honestly, I need to grow. And I think, as the feedback says, my channel is underrated. I need your help, guys. Okay, let's take a look at the block inside the game and see what we have. Okay, I have a little bit of problem here. You know what's the problem? The problem is that I removed the facing and now the model is wrong because inside my data gen for the model provider, if I find my solar panel somewhere, here we go, I have this register north default horizontal rotation. Now it will not work anymore. I need a simple state, and of course I need to run the data gen again, and this is not using the lit property, so now I can easily remove that lit property because I need to generate the data gen again. However, there is one more thing. If I look at my animal feeder, for example, let's double check that one and put it down. You see that it's working. And if I go into my animal feed block, you see that I have that lit property. Well, I don't need it. And I'm just adding a constant shape with a very complex voxel shape because I did want the highlights to, put dent in there. But in this case, we don't need that. So that's it. And in the case of this situation, yes, you need to simplify your voxel shape as much as possible. Anyway, now I need to run the data gen again. Take note, I'm not closing my game because data gen is gonna provide some JSON files for me, and when it's done, when it's finished, those JSON files can be built and reload and it will work. So I don't need to close the game. Right now I'm waiting for the data gen to take its sweet time and finish the job. And if you wonder how I know, I have a second monitor and I'm putting the run process there. Again, don't pay attention to any of these errors. The only thing that is important is that you see this build success. And now I build the project. Again, on the second monitor, I'm looking at this run. Wait for that to be finished. Now I can simply hit F3 and T to reload those JSON files containing the model. and you see that my model is correct now. And if we look at the model, it's hard to tell in the video, but we don't see that bizarre shape of outlines out there. And if I move on top of it, I'm just standing on top of it, okay? So if you want to have more complex shape like this that has depth in it, you can do that. However, in my opinion, 1 pixel depth is not worth it, and no one will notice something like that. Now, if you notice, when I'm breaking the block, it's not adding the particles. The reason is that I exported my JSON again, and if I open the solar panel JSON, you see that I don't have particles. So if I want to fix it, I can open any one that has particles, just copy paste and pay attention that the texture should be correct. Save, again build, and then reload your texture, and when you break your solar panel, it should drop particles properly for you. Let's test it. Okay, now I hit F3 and T, and when I break it, you see that it's properly showing the particles. One last thing that I want to cover in this video. When it comes to generating models for Minecraft, be a little bit mindful. In previous episode, I showed you a bit of a video from 30Worthy that is doing multi-blocks and modeling huge multi-blocks, but honestly, it's not my taste, and I think many people don't like them. They may look nice in first glance when it comes to Minecraft, because we always see things in cube shapes, and something that is not cube may look nice in first glance, but when you constantly play the game, those will not fit. I mean, they are like a giant red dot in this monitor in the game. They will be not fitting model inside the game that you can't ignore it anymore. And in my opinion, people will have some contradicted feedback about something like that in long run. So when you are designing things in Minecraft, try to stick with the shapes and looks of Minecraft as it is. If you want something, yes, you can play with the textures as much as you want, but the shape, as you see, is still a cube or a cuboid. Honestly, I think there was a time that people went crazy on using things that are not cube shaped. Tomcraft, for example, was one of them, and many other mods started doing that. But as time passed from 1.7 forward, we see less and less mods that are like that. I mean, we have few other mods. If you look at them, they are still blocky, you know, they are still very, very blocky, and they are using cubes, but in smaller shapes. And in my opinion, they sit inside the world. However, Create is a very special mod. It's doing so much that when you start playing with it and you generate your world step by step using Create, your final world will look nothing like the vanilla look. And because of that, it's still fitting the game, you know, especially when you see the models are still cubes, but the smaller cubes sitting together and making a model. However, something like that oil pump jack inside 30Worthy's model, it's still somewhat cuboid, but, you know, it's not fitting the game. I mean, even his drill is having beams that are angled, I think 22 degrees angled. Although it's looking realistic, it's not looking Minecrafty. So, in my opinion, as a starter, try to keep your models as close as possible to vanilla. And as you see, we can do lots of things using even the simple textures and a little bit of modeling with the textures. I mean, those little two vertical pieces that we put inside these tanks may not look like much, but when you play the game, that little dark border in the middle is adding a little bit of detail that is nice to have every now and then. Or in this case, for the Tesseract, for example, there is a cube, there is these connector tubes in the middle, and I think this is nice to have, but if I would put more cubes in bottom, even if they are small, I don't know, it may break how it should look in the game as much as it goes for the Minecraft design. So if you are not very familiar with modding and if you are not very familiar with modeling, try to stay close to cuboid shapes to begin with and play with your textures. I mean, this is a very detailed texture when it comes to 16 by 16. And as you see, they are adding so much to the block, especially when this block becomes animated, there is something that going on in this dark circle. However, the model itself is simple. Go as simple as possible. I mean, this is the most detailed model that I have provided beside these two, but this is the most complex one that I have for the feeder. As you see, we have dent there, we have different textures, and honestly, I think this is the extent of the details that you may want to have inside Minecraft for anything. And anything beyond these much details doesn't look Minecrafty, and fitting that to the game really need artistic taste, provided Create has that artistic taste. And I don't recall the name, but another mod is really nice. It's not exactly cuboid, but it's still following that artistic taste of Create, and it has its own taste and theme that it can add on top of vanilla without breaking vanilla. That needs a very dedicated, deep thought process of designing that taste before even starting the modeling. And I'm fairly sure that the modelers for Create and that other mod had to go back and forth between the model and the game at least 100 times to make their model fit nicely and make it work with vanilla design. So be mindful of that and have fun using Blockbench. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.